Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today we're at the Minnesota Zoo and it's kind of a rainy day, although the sun is coming out right now, so that's a little bit of a bonus. But I thought I would make a video talking about some of the benefits of going out on a day like today, and especially to some place like the zoo, which can normally be a pretty busy place here, especially in the summer, school's out. But with the threat of rain, there's not that many people around. So we have the ability to come and photograph the animals and have a lot more easier access to get some good viewing spots. So I think we'll just go along the northern trail today and see what kind of things we can find. One of the things I'm hoping for is to actually get some nice close-up shots of some of the animals, not even the entire body, but just like the head and that, but also trying to get some behavior at the same time. And so just from walking around, I've seen that we've got some moose out there. We also have bison, and the bison are pretty close actually to the fence area, and we have a nice elevated spot to capture them. So we'll start there and see what we get. One of the big benefits to the rain, especially when you're photographing these dark animals, is that you don't have that really high contrast. And so a lot of times you run into issues where, because the foreground is so bright, animals like bison just become really, really dark. And so by photographing these animals in the rain, we have a little bit lower contrast, which does make our job a little bit easier. One of the things that I do typically try to avoid, especially when I'm photographing at a place like the zoo, is getting the shot of all of the animals together. Typically, they're not, as you can see here, showing us their best side. And it also really kind of gives that sort of in the zoo sort of feel to the photo. And I think it becomes less about the animal themselves. So I try to find some that are in isolation. And in this one, I thought this would be kind of interesting because this bird was flying around. And so I've got this bird just in front, but I really am not crazy about having the fence in the background. And so there's probably some other opportunities that I can find that make a little bit more sense and give more of that either grazing or just being kind of out in the grassland sort of look. And so these next two photos, I think, do kind of a nice job of that, where I have this first one, it's framed by the tree down below the hill. And that one is okay. I think there might be a little bit too much tree there. So if I zoom in a little bit, I can get a little bit different shot. And this one, the bison has its head up a little bit. It's a little bit more of an interesting shot going with this one. But I wanted to get some others of the individuals that was maybe a little bit more interesting. And so something happened down on the lower level. One of the zookeepers came out and was giving a program, and I think that kind of indicates to these guys that there's food available. And so all of the bison started running down the hill, and I thought I'd start capturing some of those, get some of those motion shots. And I really like when I can get some of the feet up in the air. I like to try to see all four legs, the back ones here, merge a little bit, but I'm okay with that because I like what's happening on the front end. And I thought this made for kind of an interesting image as well. And then once they finished, the bison were now down at the lower level, also a very good area to be pretty close. And so I was able to get this one in the water. And with it being in the water, I was able to also do this other close-up as well, getting in more of the face in that. Got a couple of other shots that I thought were kind of fun while I was out here. This one with the tongue sticking out, actually sticking up in its nose, but I really like that two-color tongue that the bison have. And then also just a couple of just really nice close-ups with really good interaction with the animal. And then because it is springtime, although I guess actually now we are technically into summer, the bison are all shedding as well. And so showing some of that shed as well, I thought made for a pretty interesting photo. The two other advantages of being out photographing on rainy days is, one is if it's a really bright, hot, sunny day, the animals most likely are going to be under trees and shaded areas, and they're going to be very difficult to get decent views of. Whereas on a rainy day, they're more likely to be out in the open. And moving over to the Asian horses and just kind of looking at their enclosure, we see that the horses are just out in the open. And it does give us some opportunities to capture some nice shots, especially of the young ones that were just recently born, I believe, walking around. And the other thing that we notice with that is we can start to get some of those family interactions as well. Not really a rainy day thing, but certainly having the young horses out there and out in the open does certainly help that. The other thing is, if you look at the flowers and that, we do get a little bit of additional saturation that just happens naturally. And so there's a lot less we need to do from a post-processing perspective in order to bring that detail out. In fact, these photos had very little processing done on them at all. So a little bit of a contrast from what we saw with the bison, just because of the nature of the enclosure and the wildflowers and that are just growing up. Now, there are a couple things you do need to be careful of. One is your gear is going to be wet. So most cameras can tolerate a little bit of moisture, but they are not waterproof. They are water resistant is probably about the best way. So you'll see terms like weather sealed and that sort of thing, but doesn't mean that they're waterproof. And so we don't want to obviously break any equipment as we're doing this. So we want to try to be careful with it. One of the things that I typically carry with me is several microfiber cloths. I have one, right here. So I usually have like 2 or 3 of those in my bag, and using those really help in terms of keeping both the front element of the lens dry, but also something that people don't sometimes think about is if you have a lens where the barrel extends when you zoom, making sure you have that moisture off of that extended part before you bring that back in. So you don't want to get moisture getting in the lens that could lead to mold and fungus buildup inside the lens, which could then lead to a costly repair. So a couple of things that I typically try to be careful of. And then if it does start raining harder, then I will either put a rain sleeve on the camera or put the camera away for a little bit, waiting for the rain to lighten up. Didn't really have that issue today, but something that I will do from time to time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. And just remember, days when the weather is kind of iffy, a little bit rainy, it's a great time to be out shooting, and especially if you want to go to places, I should say, that are normally pretty crowded. Although now that it's warming up a bit, it's getting busier out here. So anyway, if you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe if you'd like to know more. Thanks. Bye.